Hey everybody, Jason here of GhostbustersNews.com, and as always, Ghostbusters News right here on YouTube. And today, we're going to be finishing off our review of the brand new Ghostbusters Plasma Series line, as we take a look at 3 of the new characters from Ghostbusters Afterlife: Trevor, Podcast, and Lucky. Now, for those that missed it, a quick heads up, yesterday here on the Ghostbusters News channel, we actually took a look at the 3 other figures in this series. The modern day renditions of Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Winston Zeddemore. If you missed that video review, be sure to check it out. We do have a link to it down below in this video's description. Now, I cannot wait to tear into these today, take a look at all these awesome accessories, finish building that Sentinel Terror Dog that we started here yesterday on the Ghostbusters News channel. But first, we're going to give you a once-over here of the packaging. And if you watched yesterday's video, the packaging is pretty much identical. In fact, if you picked up any of the original Plasma Series figures, this packaging should not be foreign to you at all. It's got that overall Ghostbusters khaki flight suit design to it, but the change up here, it looks old and dirty, kind of like it was sitting in a barn for 30 years. And once again, for me, it's most notable near the bottom, where we've got the Ghostbusters logo patch, and also the character's name tag patch. Now, the window boxes do give us a great idea as to what to expect when we crack these figures open. And at the same time, too, if you're an in-box collector, these figures look great in box, so it's win-win here. First up, we've got Trevor here, who's going to be played by Finn Wolfhard in Ghostbusters Afterlife. And my first reaction here is the actual face sculpt looks so good. But we're going to get more into that once we take him out of the box. Accessory-wise, he comes with a proton pack and also what looks like a map. As well, we have this little piece down here, which looks like 4 mini puffs. And it appears that they're holding a ribbon. In fact, it looks like actually the proton pack's ribbon cable. Ghostbusters Afterlife plot spoiler, maybe? Now, coming up next, we have got Podcast, who will be played by Logan Kim in Ghostbusters Afterlife. And let me say already, I love the way this figure looks. He's also boasting with tons of accessories, including a unique new pair of ecto goggles that we saw in the original Ghostbusters trailer. We've also got that Aztec ghost whistle. Looks like a remote control to the RTV. And then just tons of marshmallow goodness down here. We got what looks like melted marshmallow, which I think we actually drape around Podcast's like torso. And this really adorable mini puffed that looks like he's like raising his hand in anger and defiance. Oh, so cute. And rounding out this trio, she's so lucky, we have got Lucky, who is going to be played by Celeste O'Connor in Ghostbusters Afterlife. And from what I see here, this is probably one of the best faces I've seen so far in the Plasma Series line. Like, this is spot on to Celeste O'Connor. Accessory-wise, she comes with a proton pack and also a unique colored proton stream. You can also see near the bottom here, she's got the RTV, which looks to be the most detailed rendition of the RTV we've seen so far in toy form. Pretty excited to get that out of the box here in a few moments. Turning the figures around to the back here, we get this image showcasing all 6 in the line. Once again, Trevor, Podcast, Lucky, Peter, Ray, and Winston. And as we showed you in yesterday's video, we are going to be building a Sentinel Terror Dog. And that Sentinel Terror Dog we're going to finish off today in this video, so certainly keep watching. Alright, enough with the talking, let's go ahead, let's tear these guys open, finish building that Sentinel Terror Dog, and take a look at all these awesome accessories. So kicking things off here today, we have got Trevor. Of course, played in Ghostbusters Afterlife by the one, the only Stranger Things, Finn Wolfhard. And what I love about the 3 figures we're taking a look at today is it looks like pretty much all of them have 100% unique body sculpts. Which I guess you kind of have to because Trevor, Podcast, and Lucky's bodies are all pretty diverse. Now the face here does look great. I mean, that does look like Finn Wolfhard. I especially love like all the detail work that went into the hair. Like really, this is a great sculpt. Taking a little bit further down here at the torso, you'll see on his chest there is no name tag, which is typically something you see on a Ghostbusters flight suit. But from all the other marketing we've seen and all the other action figures coming out, it looks like that is accurate to what we're going to see in Afterlife. Now, of course, there is a Ghostbusters No Ghost patch, and it can be found on his right arm. And while we're taking actually a look at the arms here, let's actually move them around just a little bit and take a look here at the elbow pads. The elbow pads here do look pretty accurate to what we saw in like the first 2 Ghostbuster films, with only the real change here is they kind of look like more of like a grayish green. I don't know if that's accurate to what we're going to see in Afterlife, but I guess we'll eventually find out. Now, he does come with a military belt, and there is 100% like no accessories on it whatsoever. There is like a small little hole, and on that hole you can actually add like some accessories to it. Like if you got the Series 1 wave, you can attach like Spengler's PKE meter to the belt. But yeah, Trevor here, he doesn't come with anything you can actually attach to it. Now, speaking of missing stuff, you will see there is a hose connector located on his left leg. However, there's actually no leg hose. And once again, everything we've kind of seen from Ghostbusters Afterlife, that sounds like it'll be accurate to what we're going to see in the movie. And taking a look a little further down here, you can see he's rocking the Venkman, as his pant legs are left untucked. As well, you'll also notice he's not wearing your typical black boots. Instead, just a standard pair of black and white shoes. Now turning him around, you will see there's a big hole in his back, and that is of course where the proton pack is going to fit into. And much like we showed you yesterday, the proton packs go on so easily. Just kind of slide the arm and the head through, make sure the peg from the pack is in the back, and then just fasten on the side. And as I've said in previous Plasma Series reviews, I love the detail that Hasbro puts into these proton packs. For its scale, this does look so good. But there are a couple of changes actually I've noticed with this rendition of the pack compared to what we saw with like Series 1, and also the modern day renditions of Venkman, Stantz, and Zedmore we took a look at yesterday. With one big change being the actual ribbon cable. You can see they've actually went in and they've painted like a lined effect on it. Comparing that to one of the packs we took a look at yesterday, you can see that one does not feature that lined effect. As well, putting the Peter Venkman figure next to the Trevor figure, you'll see the actual like green Alice frame area is a bit thicker here. Now, I don't really know the reason for like this added spacer. Maybe it's for the added hair he has. Maybe it helps the pack rest on the back a little nicer. But anyways, just something to note. Now, Trevor does come with a couple of unique accessories, with my favorite being the mini puffs. You got 4 little mini puffs all together, and this actually goes on the back of the proton pack. You can see you just kind of rest it there, and it looks like they're kind of tearing at something. And on closer inspection, it looks like they're actually tearing the ribbon cable. So maybe that's why this ribbon cable has a little bit of like added detail. And also, mini puffs tearing apart a proton pack? Could that be a Ghostbusters Afterlife spoiler? Maybe? I guess we're all going to find out in November. Now, another really cool exclusive item Trevor does come with is a map of Somerville. And this looks to be the same map that we've seen in previous Ghostbusters Afterlife press photos. Now, what's interesting to note here is this is not the very first time we've received a Finn Wolfhard figure where he's dressed up as a Ghostbuster. Because a couple years ago, we got this Stranger Things Ghostbusters crossover action figure. And I thought I'd show this because A, I do think the Hasbro one does look so much better, but also B, man, has Finn Wolfhard changed so dramatically over the years. Which makes sense because when we first saw him, he was like a kid, and now he's like an adult. And now I feel old. Now moving on here, we have got Podcast, which I'm really dying to find out his real name, and I hope they give it in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now the head sculpt here looks amazing. This looks so much like Logan Kim. I love the face, I love the high dark hair. Yeah, this one is a big, big win for me. Now the sculpting here of the body looks great. Much like Trevor, 100% unique body sculpt. And taking a look at his chest here, it looks like he does have kind of like a would-be name tag, I guess. Like it looks like it may just be like drawn on in the film or maybe like awkwardly like stitched in. You can see it says Podcast in red and then has like a dotted black outline. Taking a look on the right arm, we do have the Ghostbusters No Ghost logo, which is the norm. He's not rocking like any elbow pads or anything like that. I also love the fact that like the cuffs on his wrists are like so rolled up, clearly showing that this suit is way too big for him. Also, taking a look around the waist there, you can see he has a belt. It's not a military belt. I really don't know what it is. Like, it looks like a belt that would come from like a bathrobe or maybe a karate belt. Like, I don't know at all. And much like Trevor, he does have the leg hose connector with no leg hose. And also like Trevor and like Venkman, you can see that his pant legs have been left untucked, which you pretty much have to because it looks like he's just wearing some gray and blue sneakers. Now, one of the first accessories we need to tell you about that comes with Podcast is that Aztec ghost whistle. Now, we already talked about that Aztec ghost whistle here on the Ghostbusters News channel. If you want to get more info on that, be sure to check out our back catalog. But it's a cool little piece that he can either hold in hand or just clips into like the hole that's on his belt. Now, turning him around to the back here, you will see he does have a hole in his back, which is the norm when it comes to these Plasma Series figures. But Podcast does not come with a proton pack. Instead, he comes with this, what looks like a bunch of melted mini puffed marshmallow. And that mini puff marshmallow does have a peg that will fit in that back hole. And really all you gotta do is just pop it in there and then wrap it around Podcast torso. And you're given this effect that you've got melted marshmallow all over him. As well, there's an additional piece of marshmallow that you can actually attach to Podcast's right arm. It's a little tricky to get on first because you have to kind of like get it over the actual flight suit sleeve. But with a little bit of pressure, you can eventually get it where it needs to be. Now, Podcast also comes with a remote control for the RTV accessory. And the RTV strangely comes with Lucky, and we're going to show you that later in this video. Now, in addition to that Aztec ghost whistle, all that melted marshmallow, the RTV controller, Podcast also comes with the Ghostbusters Afterlife Ecto goggles. So let's go ahead and strap those onto his head here. And these do look great. You can either have the goggles like covering his eyes if you want to, or you can rest them up a little bit more so like on his forehead and hairline. Now, there is one more accessory that Podcast comes with, and that is this tiny little adorable mini puffed. As the box alluded to, there's certainly some kind of like hate-filled relationship between Podcast and the mini puffs. And this is a pretty simplistic like little figure. Very simple sculpt with like the mini puff like sticking his one arm up in the air and a little bit of paint detail for the eyes and also the mouth. Now, out of the 3 figures we took a look at yesterday, the 3 figures we're also taking a look at here today, Podcast is the only one that doesn't come with a proton pack. But you may be asking, can Podcast wear a proton pack? Well, yes he can. As you're seeing right here, he can totally wear a pack. He actually looks really good with it on. So then you're left with the question, why does Podcast come with marshmallow goo and not a proton pack? Well, being that I haven't watched the film yet, I don't really know. There's probably a pretty high chance, though, that Podcast may never actually wear a pack in Ghostbusters Afterlife. That certainly is a possibility. Now moving on here, we've got the final figure in the line. We have got Lucky. And once again, kudos to Hasbro. This face sculpt is fantastic. It looks so much like Celeste O'Connor. Now, as the trend with the other 2 figures, in this one we got a unique body sculpt here. The face looks great. I also love the detail that went into her hair. Taking a look at the chest here, like Trevor, she actually does not feature a name tag of any sorts. But like all the characters, she does have that No Ghost logo on the right arm. And once again, much like Trevor, she does have a military belt that is totally empty. There are no accessories to be seen. As well, showing that she's a bit smaller in size, much like Podcast, you can see the sleeves of the flight suit are rolled up. And then moving a bit further down here, you can see she looks more like a traditional Ghostbuster, as she's wearing black boots, and actually her pant legs are tucked in. Turning Lucky around here, you'll see that she does feature the same style of elbow pads that we saw in the Trevor action figure, complete with that kind of like grayish green kind of color tone. And of course she does have the peg on her back. The proton pack fits Lucky pretty well for the most part, with the detail being exactly what you would expect from this line. I do want to make note though, her proton pack does have like that standard kind of paint app, so it doesn't have like that lined effect on the ribbon cable that we saw with the Trevor figure. And taking a look at the side of the Lucky figure here, you'll also see that she does have that kind of like extra spacer there in between herself and the proton pack. Really the only issue I have with this figure is when you get the peg like into her back and everything is secure, you'll see the straps don't really hug her shoulders as well as they should. They kind of lift up a little bit. Now moving on here, of course Lucky does come with some unique accessories, including a proton stream, kind of like what we saw yesterday when we took a look at the Venkman, Stance, and Zedmore figures. But the change up here with Lucky's stream is instead of being orange and blue, you'll see it's orange and purple. So I'm assuming the proton pack has seen some slight modifications over the years. As well, like I mentioned earlier, Lucky does come with the RTV, which is a pretty simple, genius idea. It is a remote-controlled ghost trap. And so far, this is one of the most detailed renditions we've seen of the RTV, at least in toy form. The paint app looks really clean, and I especially love the shiny silver they used for the side plates of the trap. Now, early in the video, I made mention that these figures do come with Build a Sentinel Terror Dog pieces, and yesterday we got some legs and an arm, and today we got more pieces. We got the head, the main torso, and the other arm. So I think it's finally time. Let's go ahead and build ourselves a Sentinel Terror Dog. We got this thing totally constructed, and man, does this thing ever look menacing. Apparently this Sentinel Terror Dog is going to get featured in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I love the look of it. I mean, why wouldn't I? It is an upright walking terror dog. Now for a Build-A-Figure, the articulation is okay. The head's actually on a ball joint there, so you can get some pretty good rotation out of that. His mouth also opens and closes. His arms you can also move up and down and also forward and back a little bit there. Really the only articulation that's a bit questionable is in the legs. But really this stance is how he's going to stand in your collection. I mean, once again, the arms you can move around quite a bit there, but the legs, he really can't stand any other way. Now speaking of those legs, I do like this kind of like translucent effect that they're trying to do here. But with that semi-translucent effect, it does look a little strange on the back, as you can kind of see like his inner pieces like around his butt area. And it looks like there's some like inner like pegs and circles, and also this big square. But I'm going to display him with his front showing, so this little square booty back here, it doesn't bother me at all. Now size-wise, you'll see he does tower above the other figures in this Plasma Series line, especially a smaller figure like Podcast. But man, does he ever make an awesome display piece. Like here, we've got that Sentinel Terror Dog and also Gozer from the first wave of figures, as well 2 of those Build a Terror Dogs. Just seeing them all together here, I cannot wait to actually put them on display, once again, in my collection. These look great together. And I think that just about finishes off today's video. But before we cap it off, let's get the team together. Here we go. So far, all the Ghostbusters Afterlife Plasma Series figures together. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to buy any of these figures, we do have those purchase links, and they can be found right down below in this video's description. And I cannot recommend this Plasma Series line enough. If you buy one of them, you gotta buy all of them. And not just because of that Sentinel Terror Dog, but just look how great they look all together. All the characters look like they're scaled properly. As well, it's so fun to mix and match accessories between these. Like maybe Ray, or Dan Aykroyd, is thinking of making a mini puff flavored Crystal Head vodka. And speaking of Ray stands, yesterday we said we were going to try podcast ecto goggles on Ray's head. So let's go ahead and see if these will fit. They're going to fit. Ah, that looks so awesome. For years, I've been saying typically my favorite Ghostbusters action figures are Ray stance figures with the ecto goggles, you know, all suited up. And seeing modern day Ray wearing those Ghostbusters Afterlife goggles, just warms my heart. I don't know if we're going to see this image in Ghostbusters Afterlife, but at least we can see it on our toy shelves. So guys, that does it for our two-part review of the brand new Ghostbusters Plasma Series figures. As I already mentioned, if you want to buy them, we got links down below in this video's description. That's all I've got for you here right now. As always, be sure to subscribe to Ghostbusters News here on YouTube. Bust that bell notification icon to stay up to date with everything that's happening within the Ghostbusters world. If you'd like to join up with Ghostbusters News, check out our Patreon page. We have a link to that down below in this video's description. And I'll see everybody right back here next time.
Till they see it for themselves and they need an assist. Until they purchase all our services. Fees are high, we got bills to pay. It takes on all the time, and then there's something in the basement. Face it, paranoia's right. When you're at your weakest, don't even turn out the lights. Entertainment unit when we catch our prize. Calls coming in, it sounds like a class 5. Take a public spirit guide, there might be some clues or something to use, so we can conclude investigation. The experience manifestations. We're living the beings. PKE meter is blazing. Classic grills, white walls, and the sirens. Go to Hell's Kitchen and over to Staten Island. I don't wanna live it if we always battle hell, but somebody's gotta do it. Who you calling on your cell?